Guys, have you tried Vite Ramen? I love these noodles. They're high in protein and fiber, which is nice, but most importantly, they taste delicious. Now, these guys have another product to get excited about, Naked Nudes. These are high-protein noodles that make up the base of Vite Ramen and now are sold as a separate product. Naked Nudes by Vite Kitchens has 23 grams of high-quality plant-based complete proteins, more fiber than 2 cups of broccoli, and they're loaded with B vitamins and iron. Naked Nudes were created with the approval of registered dietitian nutritionists because eating healthy should be effortless and delicious. If you're looking for instant protein, instant nutrition, and instant satisfaction, give Vite Ramen a try today. Visit viteramen.com/Chael or just click on the link below. Do not forget to use the promo code Chael at checkout. That's going to give you free shipping in the US and 10% off. You guys know Joe Riggs, Joe Diesel Riggs? Joe Riggs is as much of a tough guy as there's ever been a tough guy. He came through the UFC, but he did something before that. I want to say maybe he was even into weightlifting. Then he had to get his weight under control, so he covered a whole bunch of weight classes all the way down to 170. He's over doing bare knuckle to this day, but just hold the thought, Joe Riggs. And one thing about Joe Riggs is his background. He was very good at boxing. So Joe Riggs gets drawn in against Stockton's own young man named Nick Diaz. So they go out and they have this fight. And I remember this wasn't a huge fight. Like, the world wasn't all talk about it, but I was. I was counting down the days. I was telling my friends. And I remember so much expectations were put on Diaz. And I was telling people kind of the other side where I go, yeah, but they're going to stand up. They're going to trade a lot. And this is what Riggs does so well. Like, this is a really good fight. Keep your eye on it. I was having a hard time getting people on board. Fight happens. It's awesome. They end up in the hospital. So they go to the same hospital, but they're separated. You know, when you leave that octagon, things are done. And particularly in my world, I came from a wrestling background. They will make us, per the rules, shake hands before and after. And there's just something that happens when you shake hands. There just is. Even if you don't want it to. If you shake that person, there's just something that stays there and is resolved. All right, hold that thought, because these guys have left the octagon. They go to the hospital. Somehow, Nick Diaz is getting nursed. He's getting wheeled in the hospital gurney past Joe Riggs, who's hooked to an IV. This is the basic setting. Nick is not done with Joe. This is the first time he sees Joe, so he's going to go finish this with Joe right now. Now, that even involves pulling the IVs out of his arm so that he can get off the gurney so that he can get to Riggs. And Joe Riggs isn't what you would consider Mr. Stable. Right? I mean, like, when you get in those situations, one person has to be grounded while one being a live wire, right? You understand those things. Riggs isn't the guy that you can count on to stay in that bed and be the grounded one. Okay. This was so classic and legendary. Unfortunately, it all got broken up. But apparently when Diaz pulled this out of his arm, I mean, like, blood was squirming, the story starts to get around. It was so electric of a story that Fight Lore, which without question is the single greatest thing ever produced in our sport. By the way, whoever does Fight Lore, good job. They make a Fight Lore about this because they can't retell the story, but Fight Lore uses a level of animation. You can't retell the story that I just told with a level of accuracy without a visual, and you can't get that visual unless you can make a cartoon, unless you can use animation. That's what they did. And there was something about it, like, that will live in infamousy. Infancy? You know the word I'm trying to think of. And guess what? Paddy the Baddy kind of gave his version of that. Now, I got to look at this and really break this down. Paddy the Baddy is in the hospital. We've all known that Paddy's hurt. We all know that Paddy had to undergo surgery. It had something to do with his ankle. We all know that the UFC was just in England, where they would have liked to have Paddy. I think it should have been Paddy versus Justin Gaethje. Gaethje ends up taking on Fitzaev. And it's a big question of, why is Paddy not here? Well, there's also a very obvious answer. Paddy's hurt. He's undergoing surgery. I've never known how serious I should take that. I mean, even though I heard that Paddy was injured, I heard that the night that he fought Eddie Gordon, which is seemingly a period of time ago. Like, off the top of my head, that was a period of time ago. 5 months? Paddy's in the hospital now, getting the ankle worked on. And I gotta tell you, like, these things just don't add up for me, but they don't have to. It's really not the point I'm going down. I just will share with you that I knew 5 months ago he was hurt. It's the same injury, but he's in the hospital now. I don't understand what took so long. Maybe that's a UK thing. I'll tell you what, here in West Lynn, I got a bad ankle, I go in today. Save that thought. Not overly relevant. Paddy decides he's going to cut a promo from the hospital bed. Oh, and by the way, I should mention for you, he's still upset about the Gordon fight, which he won. Now, that's a hard thing to do. If you're in Jared Gordon's position and you're trying to rectify an injustice, even if within your mind, if you want a rematch, if you want people to keep talking about it, if you want this to live on, it's going to be a very hard thing to do 5 months later. There's an art to what you're doing. Jared Gordon has moved on. Jared Gordon, to put in perspective for you, is scheduled to take on Bobby Green on April 22nd, which is roughly a month from now. Point being, Jared Gordon's mind is somewhere else. He has moved on. Well, not so fast. Apparently, in the build-up to the Bobby Green fight, Jared is still talking about Paddy. Paddy's in a hospital bed and has decided to respond to Jared. Now, there's a lot happening here. You guys have heard the expression, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Sure it is. So, and I got to start with this. Of all the things that I see in this video, okay, I want you guys to picture, Paddy's in the hospital. Paddy's on the bed. He's got the bracelet, the bracelet that they give you. But that's a real thing. Like, you could manufacture a lot of a hospital scene. Hollywood does it all the time. They don't manufacture the bracelet. It's like a little added detail. He's got the bracelet on. Now, with his free hand, for reasons unknown to me, he's given himself what the kids call a titty twister. I don't know what that's about. And he's in a gown, and he's cutting a promo, and he's saying things at Jared Gordon. What else I see, guys? It's very you want to know I told you he's doing the titty twister? Why don't I told you he had the thing on his? Because I'm telling you, I can see his hands. That's what I'm trying to illustrate for you guys. I can see his hands, which means somebody else is holding the camera. Which means when Paddy is possibly on a pain medication, possibly on an anesthesia, definitely not the best version of himself if he's in the hospital, but I think we could just take a leap of faith to imagine that. Somebody brought in a camera and thought this is a good time to document something. Fair enough. And essentially, he's very mad at Gordon. He says, I hope you see this. You're effing dog. At my worst, you couldn't beat me. At your best, you couldn't beat me. I was injured. Everything was going wrong, and you still couldn't beat me. I beat you on your best night because you're a little bum. The end. Now, that's a hot take. That is as hot of a take as you're going to get at a very real moment. I'm just wondering, what should we make of it? I mean, do you guys want to see these guys fight again? Do they need to fight again? I had my own opinion. I could have had that fight 30-27 for Paddy. I really could have. But I could have had it 30-27 for Gordon as well. And I don't usually do that. I admit for you guys, I'm not the right one to turn to for judging. But I know the sport. I know what I'm looking at. I know when you have a live audience of 15,000 people that their reaction is a very good indicator. I mean, right, that's your smallest focus group that you got right there. That's an indicator of the community and the world at large. I didn't think it was as controversial as many people did. And the mere fact that Jared is able to move on and move into a big fight, going over to the Apex, going against Bobby Green, the mere fact that we're still all eyes on Paddy the Baddy, I feel as though everybody's done what they were supposed to do, and I feel as though everybody gained here. And that doesn't always happen, right? The sport is very cutthroat. For both guys to gain, it's a massive win. It's something that should be celebrated. But if you go and you do the rematch, right, it hurt. You want to know somebody that didn't want to see? I'll give you guys a great example. You want to know one person that did not want to see Forrest Griffin, Stephan Bonner, Part 2? Me. Me. I didn't want resolution. I didn't want it cleared up. I liked that it was murky. I liked that both guys were given their due. Both guys were recognized. Both guys lived and shared this wonderful moment. Both guys were given contracts, right? I mean, I could go on and on. I didn't want resolution. I didn't want to know for sure when we talk about this and we look back, that guy is better. I didn't want that. So Gordon versus Paddy is a very unique situation where both guys won in terms of stock and name recognition being elevated. They believe they need to go out and do a rematch, and maybe they're right. I just want to turn it over to you and get your opinion. Should they fight again?